Do the bits and pieces here. We have Kate. Come on to stage. We have Inez. Come on to stage. So I'm going to say good morning to you both, and where I mean good morning being, 10:30 a.m., coffee and morning tea time. For you, it's good morning in the middle of the night. It's 2:30 a.m.
Just about, yeah.
Well done for joining us that late at night. I think most of the speakers are doing, their talks in times that, that they would normally be awake. But we're super happy to have you. Really excited to see your talk. I didn't say Inez and Kate are from South Africa. And they're representing, let me just check this, sorry, She Can Do in South Africa. We've got a short talk from them now, so pop questions into the chat as we go, and like our other talks, we'll either fit them in at the end or pop off to the Q&A session afterwards. And the talk also, I'll tell you that bit, is about leading creatives in a non-profit organisation. So I'll hand over to you both and looking forward to it.
Cool. Thanks, Dana. Morning, Kate.
Morning.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay. Kate, is it showing okay?
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
I can see it.
Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having Kate and I here. We are tired but excited to be here. So my name is Inez. I've been in the UX industry pretty much since I started working, and the things that make me tick are research, people, and problems. So I live in South Africa, and I run 2 nonprofit organizations that address various societal issues. And during the day, I work as a design director for one of the biggest banks in South Africa. I look after our mobile app, our banking rewards program, and a few of our other sort of interesting bits and pieces. Kate, do you want to intro yourself?
Sure. So I have a bit of a different background. I studied anthropology, spent several years wondering what to do with a degree in anthropology, and through a series of twists and turns, landed in UX, and I am now the head of UX research at a design agency in South Africa called Make Rain, and I could direct She Can Do with Inez.
Great. And so today we're here to talk to you about our experience leading creatives in a nonprofit space. So Kate and I have been on this journey together since about 2017, and we've made multiple mistakes over the years, but have therefore actually had the privilege to really learn about what it takes to motivate, teach, and support creatives in our space. So what does She Can Do, first of all? Well, we are a nonprofit organization based in South Africa, and our mission is to use human-centered practices to educate, build confidence, and create opportunities for women in the South African design industry. We create safe, inclusionary, and experimental spaces for our members to accomplish their career goals. And listening to the talk just before, but I thought it's actually so exciting that there are so many people all over the world who have similar visions or missions and ways of doing this type of work. So yeah, really sort of, just as we say, well done to the ladies before. The work that's being done is super inspiring, and I hope that we can all learn from each other. Anyways, so this is what She Can Do is, and Kate is going to tell us about how we started or how we got to where we are now.
Cool. So yeah, we're in a very different place than we were when we began. I think everyone is in a different place than where they thought they would be in a few years ago. And essentially through the years, although things have changed a lot in the last couple of years, we've actually gone along a trajectory in which we've learned through a kind of design thinking approach, as any good UX organization should do, in terms of how we create the best experiences and the kind of how we built this organization. We started off as a meetup organization, so we had monthly events, and those events also evolved over time. So for example, we used to have like very speaker focused events, and we started realizing very early on that we needed to be more practical and skills focused and interactive, and that Inez will also show you has come sort of through to where we are now. So what we did is we turned those talks more into workshops, and we made sure that so we had a speaker on a topic, but we would have a workshop in which it wasn't simply a case of somebody could just read an article or see a talk. It was kind of, you go to a workshop and you learn a skill that you can actually take to work the next day. And we also, as we were going along, realized we didn't also just want to give a platform to kind of the experts, so-called experts. We wanted to, the point of our organization was to kind of empower women in the UX and design industry. So we tried as much as possible to open up the floor, give a platform to just anybody in our community to do workshops on different topics. And we did things like we had a portfolio building series where we did a series of workshops on to help people get practical experience and be as interactive. And as we were kind of going along, we created this really nice community, which I think that a lot of people felt was a very warm and welcoming one, safe space and all that. But this was all focused on our monthly events, our monthly in-person events. And then the world turned upside down, and I'm going to hand over to Inez to take you forward from there.
Because then COVID hit, mentioned by, again, the presentation earlier. COVID hit, and in the nonprofit space, that meant no more in-person events. So sponsorship started to decrease. Actually, almost quite ended, and we knew something had to change. But we tried, so during COVID, we continued to have these talks online. We tried to replicate the offline experience online, and it was actually really cool for a bit. I mean, we got to have international speakers join us and international audiences, which was really further reach than we had ever thought we would have. And it was really cool until it just wasn't. I think there came a point during COVID when you're at home looking at a screen the whole day, and the thought of staying on the screen to do a talk, to attend a talk, it just wasn't fun anymore. And so when I looked at my team and the organization, well, my team especially, I knew that I couldn't push them to do more than they were already doing. They were tired, they were disheartened. COVID was mentally wrecking. And when you lead creatives, I think it's really important to have enough empathy, or the right kind of empathy, during the hard moments, and knowing when you can push and when you need to pull back. So we decided to pause. We stopped running our meetups, and we pretty much disappeared from the world for a bit. We, and what do designers do when we're lost? Well, we go back to research. So we spent about 8 months getting to know our community again and delving into a lot of in-depth research to get inspiration and new strategic ways to move past COVID. And again, being in this experimental space, we have the ability to do that, to just freeze everything for 8 months. We don't lose any money. There's no market share issues, no late deliverables, no negative customer ratings. It's just us. So that freedom, I think, has been amazing. But through the research, it really shifted us into sort of new ways of working. It helped us to identify all of the problems we actually wanted to address for our members and also for our industry. But we realized that we wouldn't be able to solve those by running monthly talks. What we needed was design teams to spend time solving the problems and creating, well thought out solutions. So we basically needed more people. And at this point, I wondered, where would I find even more people to give us their time, their energy, their knowledge, and their skills, all for free. And so I sat down with my team who had been there, being part of the research. There were about 6 of us. And I unpacked with them why they actually agreed to help with the research in the first place, why they continued to help with She Can Do, and why they wanted to stay with it. So really understanding what it was that was driving these amazing women to do incredibly valuable and good work. And once I did, it was about using these principles as a framework for what we use our volunteer program to do. And these 4 things are really like some of the key things that we base our leadership style on. And so now what She Can Do does is we focus on building small project teams of volunteer designers that address the issues that our organization aims to address. For example, we have a team that is designing our website, a team that focuses on our community and our social presence. We have a team that's aimed to help junior designers with their portfolios and such. And then we've got teams aimed at like addressing the issues that designers have experiencing, like imposter syndrome and confidence and things like that. So it's really different types of projects that allow our volunteers to contribute towards the community while also learning the skills needed to create these solutions. So we run our projects in 3-month cycles, and we bring in a group of about 15 to 20 designers each cycle. And we're in our 3rd cycle at the moment. During this time, Kate and I have been introduced to so many creatives from different backgrounds and at different places in their careers. And that has allowed us to really learn how to lead creatives. And I think that's been one of the most interesting lessons we've been able to experience and learn from. Kate has been running the website team for the past 3 cycles, so she's going to share what it's been like for her.
Yeah, so building the website for 3 cycles, and we don't yet have a website, which I will not say that that doesn't cause me any anxiety at all. It does, but it's been part of the process because in every cycle, we get this new group of creators. As Inez said, people are at different skills levels, people at different stages in their careers, people with different interests. And this has been, I mean, I've never said the term learning curve so many times as I have in the last year or so, but it's been a massive learning curve. And so basically in our first cycle, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say this talking to a conference of UX people, but I was like, cool, we need a website. We can just like divide up the work, and you work on this and you work on that, and we can string it all together and we'll have a website. That's obviously not how things go. And so what it eventually turned into in the first cycle is a kind of extended, very edited version of like a design sprint, like a Google design sprint, but over a 3-month period. So every week we developed the concept a little bit more, and we kind of did lots of how might we's and lots of dot voting and crazy eights and all of these things, to the point where now three cycles in, we have some form of a design that we can test. In that first cycle, like, I mean, I learned a lot about leading a team where, you know, there are so many different levels of skills and interests, and we're all starting this thing from scratch. So it's not just like they're volunteering, you know, for us, and we have things for that to give them to do or whatever. It's we're all creating this together, and I've got it kind of feels a bit like the blind leading the blind sometimes, a little bit. So then so we went through this amazing journey. We like developed this great foundation. We had a long-term goal. We had a journey that we wanted to prototype. Then the first cycle ended, and we had a group of new people. Then I had to sort of, every cycle I'm sort of learning again, what happens with a new team? How do you start off on the right foot with a bunch of creative people who are wanting to learn different things also, and bring different strengths? And the first thing I did that I've been also trying to improve on is try to get to know the people in the team. So we do a sort of couple of exercises where we understand how do people work the best, and what is their preferred ways of decision making, things like that. But especially, what are people's strengths? What do they feel that they can contribute to the project, and what are they interested in? Because I realized there needs to be this balance between like helping volunteers to get the experience or the learning or the upskilling that they want, while also making sure that the work that they are doing is like tangible, like valuable. I mean, of course, it'll be valuable anyway, but I mean, we've got something at the end of the day, because if you're starting out with beginners every single time and everybody is learning everything from scratch, it can't just be everybody is a creative, everybody's learning, everyone can do whatever they want. So, and that's helped me a lot to try and get that from the beginning, learn kind of who the team is, and also understanding all the many roles that creatives can have, so that it's not clear cut. It's just somebody doing the UI or the content strategy or whatever. I personally am very bad with my organizational skills and planning skills. So I realized in those strengths that people listed, some people said like planning skills, or that things they wanted to learn was like running a project from beginning to end. So I could also fill the gaps in my own kind of leadership tasks. So yeah, and it's that kind of has also led to my third point, which is that ultimately sometimes someone just has to make an executive decision. That is a big thing that I've had to accept. So we went from this like amazing, like creative design sprint type of thing to sort of understanding that like we need to acknowledge, you know, people have different interests and how can we assign people according to their strengths and appreciate everyone's ideas, to also realizing, okay, now we're all in a room, we think we're, you know, we've got all these ideas, who's going to make the decision? And I'm sure people are familiar with the kind of design by committee issue. It makes you want to kind of bash your head against a wall, and that's like something important that I've had to learn, that I'm not, you know, as a leader, also in my day job, that I've had to kind of learn. Sometimes someone needs to say, okay, we're going to go with that one. And that actually, that's also something that people want. It's people want to have their say, but also I found that people want some kind of structure. So it's all about this kind of balance, and you know, every cycle is a sort of new batch of people. So I think like what's really important is creating this structure and appreciating people, but also making sure that kind of we're getting things done. And I think that Inez can also, I think, expand on a much broader level in terms of like the rest of the organization.
Thanks, Kate. So I'd like to talk about some of the things that I've learned over time looking after this whole organization, and sort of the things that I think I've learned about leadership, especially when it comes to creatives, especially in the nonprofit space, where you're not sort of being paid for the work. So the first thing that I really live by is that you have to truly care about what your people care about. In our first volunteer cycle, we ran that last year, we onboarded about 16 new volunteers. And at the end of the 3 months, we only had about one person left who was actively engaged in it. So it was actually, in all truthfulness, quite a failure. And we felt bad and it was not nice, but we picked ourselves up and we went to understand where we went wrong by speaking to some of the people who had sort of dropped off. And we figured out what we had done wrong. And what it was is that we had placed people into projects because projects needed people, as opposed to placing people into projects because that would help them with what they needed to get out of volunteering. And so we really needed to just shift our thinking a bit. And so now what we do is we have sessions with each volunteer before placement to really understand what it is that they are here for and what they're hoping to get out of the 3 months with us. And then we place them in a project or a space that will help them to achieve that specific skill. So for example, somebody wanting to see the design process for the first time will need to have a different experience to someone who wants to specialize in accessibility. So we made that shift, and really exciting that in our second cycle, we had started with 15 volunteers and ended it with 13 who were actively engaged and interested. So that was a really big improvement for us. And that's the design process, right? We try, we learn, we tried, we learned in 3 months, and now we have quite a stable sort of program going. The second thing that really speaks to me is about creating safe spaces for your team to give you critical feedback. So this is me relying on my team to give me their honest opinions and concerns. And so we have regular reflection sessions for me to hear and be confronted with any harsh truths. Recently, it was sort of brought up to me that I often get excited about things like that I want us to do as an organization, people I want us to partner with, conferences that I want us to speak at 2 a.m. And I'm put off by the time it would take for me to socialize the sort of idea and get feedback and then only action it. Because in the nonprofit space, as volunteers or people with, like, all of us have other jobs, so we're never actually working at the same time. Anyway, so it came up that I often make decisions without being inclusive enough. And my team are left out of my thinking process or my decision making. So luckily they've told me this recently, and something that I'm working on, where you balance, as Kate said, taking the lead and helping us move things forward, while also ensuring that your team feels and knows that they have a say in how things are run. The third thing that I'm going to just quickly talk about is how I think you scale at quality when you're working with creatives. And that's about really, it's trust. So I have to trust all of my project leads, such as Kate and the other people that work in all the projects, and trust that they will do the right things and that they will do good work. And I know that they will. Initially, I tried to be everywhere, helping every project, helping everyone, and it wasn't feasible. So being able to let go and really just put that trust in the people has been able to help us scale as well. And then helping people to celebrate failure. So one thing that we really do celebrate at She Can Do is knowing that nobody gets in trouble here. So you can mess up, you can do the wrong thing, you can make the wrong design decision. As long as you remember that when you make a mistake, you actually have learned something, and you've learned the lesson properly, not just from reading about it. And those are the moments that truly grow you. And finally, the thing that I believe most creatives need is confidence. Creatives in their confidence. My team, the designers in my team are so good, really, really good. And it takes so much for them to acknowledge that for themselves. And in my time here, what She Can Do, I've realized that building somebody's confidence goes a really, really long way in making them a better designer. And that's something that we try to do here at She Can Do. So you'll be in a space where you're told that you're doing well. Your team shows you how much value you're contributing. And that's it. That's what we have to share. So thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Excellent stuff. And great to hear that the problems that we are having, obviously, everywhere in the world are very similar, because
Yeah.
what you're saying resonates a lot as well on our side. And I saw also in the chat that others were mentioning from New Zealand and Asia as well. So quite common challenges. And thank you for showing how you overcame these.